that's it.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah.
I did not print off the agenda. I apologize. So we have to approve minutes. Where are we at?
Do you want me to share my screen, Nicole?
Sure, that would be helpful.
Sure, my computer's being weird again.
Well, that's what's happening with my laptop. I can't get the audio to work at all on my laptop. I had a terrible time. And Zoom to take over my computer, and I said no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was not sure about that, and because they have so many limitations on Zoom at work, I thought I'll just stick to my phone for now.
Okay, let me see if I can share my. I'm starting to get somewhat good. Right.
But that's okay. If we just, I think the first step was just to call us to order, and then, oh, look at that. Boy, I know that, didn't I?
Wow.
I'm getting pretty good here, you guys.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So do we want to, are we okay with the agenda the way it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I have one thing maybe under new business. I could potentially wrap it up in the COVID-19, but I wanted to talk about grants as well. So I don't know if we want to add a B or if you want me to just lump it all in and we don't worry about changes.
Lump it all in, and again, you know, if we can do this in an hour, I think that would be good for everyone. So is everybody okay?
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then the minutes from March 4th, which seems so long ago. Are we okay with the minutes? Any comments?
I honestly don't even remember them.
Yeah. Well, if everybody's in agreement, let's just accept them and we'll go forward.
Sounds good.
Kim, if you scroll, they are below as well if you needed to look. I attached it all together for ease this go.
Oh,
That's
Nicole, I trust you with my life.
Okay, we don't need to do that. So we need to move on to what? The town council report, Marnie?
First,
Sorry, go ahead.
I need a motion for someone to adopt the minutes, sorry.
I will.
Okay, well, seconded.
I will. Yep.
And Nicole, are we recording?
Yeah, it says we're recording up in the corner.
Okay.
So now we have to be careful, guys, and be official.
Darn.
So, on to Marnie.
All right. It's been kind of a crazy time, obviously, for everybody and everybody getting used to their virtual lives and all that kind of good stuff. Council still, you know, we still fumble through things at times. We've definitely gotten better at our meetings and streaming, but there's still some technical challenges, obviously, that we're all facing. And I know some of the committees are still looking how to even carry out their meetings. So yeah, it's been an interesting time. Probably the only big thing that you guys would be, I guess probably, I mean, we get updates all the time about COVID stuff. There really is no, I don't want to say that there's it's not, things are relaxing, but of course, you know, we are cautious as to where we are with opening a bunch of stuff around town yet, just because of the fact that our numbers have remained low. And obviously they've remained low because we've done a good job for the most part of trying to flatten the curve. So that part is
numbers at.
The last report that I had, I believe we had, don't quote me totally on this, I think we had 18 cases in Springbank and Cochrane, but 13 had recovered.
Wow.
But you know, those numbers, so there's 5 that are still affected, but those numbers fluctuate. So, you know, they can shift. But probably the biggest thing that you guys would want to be concerned about, obviously, is that we developed or council approved task forces the last time I was in council. And so one is going to be a social side. So obviously that's where FCSS will be a part of that conversation. And the other one is an economic recovery task force. And so these are basically kind of roundtable discussions, because it's not just how do we deal with things now for families, individuals, kids, seniors? How do we look at all those different facets of how COVID's affected them socially, not just today, but as we move into the future? We know that COVID's going to have a massive effect on our economy. With that comes, challenges financially for people. We know that there could be cases of domestic abuse, substance abuse, all those things. And of course, it's a trying time for parents because, homeschooling kids is, I can vouch, I am no teacher. I don't want to be a teacher ever in my lifetime. And there's a lot of challenges that are facing families right now. And from the economic side, then of course we look at the business community. What do they need support? How can we make sure that businesses remain open? And again, looking at the long-term prognosis, not just today. But those are kind of the big things that we have right now dealing with in council.
Well, it still sounds like a lot, so good on you guys.
It's definitely been, there's a lot of meetings that people aren't aware that council's involved in, right? Like we have meetings usually twice a week for sure. We get regular updates. We have lots of questions, trying to figure out lots of questions from the public and then lots of questions from, organizations and groups as to what it looks like going forward. And honestly, the big answer is nobody really knows, right? I mean, we follow kind of provincial suit, but that does not mean that if Calgary said tomorrow they're opening all playgrounds, that we would necessarily open all playgrounds. So just so that people don't necessarily compare the two, we look at, what our risk is versus, just kind of following provincial lead. For the most part, we follow provincial lead, but it doesn't mean that we have to do everything that everybody else is saying. We get our direction from the ECC. And so really they're the deciding factor at the end of the day as to what can go forward and what can't.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody has any questions at all.
No, sounds like we're good.
Okay, that's about what I got.
Okay, Kim, over to you.
Awesome. Okay, I have a few kind of random things like I always do. In terms of the social recovery task force that Marnie was talking about, I'll actually be leading this task force, and we'll have the amazing Nicole by my side as recording secretary to support me as I fumble through it. The membership of the
Is that on top of your other duties?
Uh-huh.
Is that on top of your other duties?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay.
In my spare time, Mark, this is what
Yeah,
I'm going to be doing.
Got it.
So we have a whole variety of different people on the social task force. We'll have reps from the Activettes, Rotary Club, Big Hill Haven, Victim Services, Helping Hands, and we'll also have a frontline resource worker from FCSS as well.
Wow.
So we'll be kind of feeding into, like Marnie said, what is that? What is it going to look like after? What does recovery look like? And it is unknown. We need to figure out what are the needs going to be. I anticipate that we're going to be seeing different people than we're typically seeing. Yeah, so that's going to be big on our plate, but I'm really excited to kind of take that on, and we're looking at getting that set up pretty quickly, having our first meeting potentially next week. So that's been happening pretty fast and pretty furious. Wanted to just give an update on the Family Resource Network as well. Things are starting to really pick up in that area. We're starting to get a little bit of pressure from the government to start sharing information on the Family Resource Networks, that we've received funding. So a media release was sent out today, and I'm sure you guys will be kind of hearing it in the news and stuff, but we are letting the community know that we received funding to be a Family Resource Network, and that the programs and services that we're offering will include early childhood development programs, parent capacity building, home visitation through a Calgary organization, and youth support through the Cochrane Boys and Girls Club. We kept this media release pretty, I want to say positive, and looking at it more with excitement, and didn't focus on the loss to the community on the different programs and services. This was done very deliberately. The messaging that would have went out pre-COVID might have been a little bit different. But now I want to make sure that the community knows that those supports are available, that they can access them. I think there's a lot of anxiety that exists right now in our world, and we don't want to be adding anxiety to the community. We want to make sure that they know there is a place to go for support. So that media release will be coming out, letting people know we received funding and that all programs and services will be offered remotely. We also, what else did I want to tell you about? Oh, thanks, honey. I have my husband delivering me supper. He's so great, you guys. Wanted to let you know about FCSS AA grants. So I believe, I'm trying to remember, but I think I updated back in April that the province was dedicating $30 million to support COVID response. We, as a local FCSS agency, were taking in grant applications. So if anybody within Cochrane or Western Rocky View County wanted to apply for the funding, they would apply through us. Nicole and I were vetting those grants, making recommendations, and then sending them up to the province with our recommendations. I believe we received, I want to say 6, Nicole, grant applications in total. And then the government ended up putting those grants on hold. So on April 21st, they suspended the grant applications because they received so many applications. I think it was 600 plus that said, and they needed time to actually sift and sort and prioritize all of those. So grant applications are still closed, and we're just waiting for word when and if those are going to reopen again. But we did receive some really great applications from the community, and we made some pretty solid recommendations. So I'm really hoping some of those dollars come back to the groups that applied.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I just have one more thing before, because I am going to keep talking in the new business. You guys are going to hear a whole lot from me tonight. But under my report, I just wanted to let everybody know that Sydney, who was our youth and family support worker, is no longer working with us. This is really unfortunate. She was absolutely brilliant and so good at what she did. But the youth, as you know, what portion wasn't funded through the Family Resource Network. And I was really working to try to find dollars to keep that position going. I was able to extend her for a 2-month period, but she ended up getting a position with Aspen at another Family Resource Network doing youth support work, which is where she's brilliant and shines. So her last day, pardon me?
What is Aspen? What is that?
It's probably, you could relate it similarly to FCSS. They do a whole lot to serve the lifespan, right from prevention programs to early intervention. They were also designated to be a family resource network, and they receive funding to provide intensive services for youth, where we did not. So Sydney moved there.
Where are they located? Like, are they in Cochrane?
Nope, they're in Calgary, and Sydney actually lives in Calgary as well. So it's a perfect fit, and we know that, and I wished her so much luck, but was very sad in the end because we lost somebody really great with our organization.
Okay.
So, and I think that sums up kind of the main things. We're really busy, really busy. We've got a whole lot of areas on the go. We're not only doing the COVID response with our emergency social services, but we're doing family resource network stuff. We're still figuring out how we do everything that we do remotely, the task force, the FCSS AA grant. So yeah, we've got a whole lot of stuff on our plates.
Well, stay safe and stay strong.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So we're on to new business now?
COVID update and discussion. Yes, I'm just searching for, I've got notes written everywhere, just random. I'm living with sticky notes, you guys, these days. They've like plastered my life. Do you guys remember, do you want me to show you our ESS structure again, how I restructured things for us to respond? Would that be of interest to people? Okay. Did the screen shift like magic?
Wow.
Yeah, but I can't read it, so it's too small.
Quite amazing.
There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So when COVID hit, our agency was in a little bit of chaos. As you know, we just lost, we had some significant shifts in programming, significant shifts in funding. COVID hit in March and we didn't have our family resource network or anything up and running. So basically what I did was I went into emergency social services mode with our team and divided our team up into 3 separate pillars to allow us to respond to the needs of COVID. So the 3 pillars are our primary services unit, which Anne-Marie is leading. And this is all the things that we typically would do as a resource center, those frontline essential services, supportive counseling, making sure that we're meeting those immediate essential needs of residents. So we have 2 resource workers. Terry and Natalie are taking most of the calls, but they're linking people up if they have issues with housing. We're talking and linking people up to financial supports, making sure that they're accessing all those government supports that exist, transportation, domestic violence, social isolation. Basically, anything that people are experiencing are going to our resource workers over the telephone, and they're triaging and providing telephone support. Underneath that as well, we're also looking at food security. So we're working really closely with the Activettes to make sure that people have access to food. We've created a really great system with Town of Cochrane workers as well. So we have operations helping us out, as well as ranch house culture and events. And they're doing the food deliveries because we don't want people picking up food from the actual hamper programs. So they're preparing hampers. Our town team is picking them up and dropping them off on people's doorsteps. So people don't actually have to leave their
Are you
house.
getting a lot, Kim? Sorry.
Pardon me?
Are you putting a lot of hampers out there and a lot of calls?
No, actually, it stayed, I would say, fairly typical. Nicole might be able to correct me because she's looking after the stats, but I would say anywhere between 20 to 30 a week is what we're currently receiving. And that's what we would have been receiving in February. So things haven't dramatically changed. I think right now, a lot of people are doing okay because that government support is in place and people have some of those financial resources that they can access. Even our call volume.
When you say you're delivering this stuff, like how do you guys handle that with like when you deliver it, you drop it off and someone comes out and picks it up, or?
We do a doorstep drop and then they go back to the car, call the family and let them know, and we wait until the food's actually picked up and gone in.
Okay.
So
you
no
don't,
contact.
yeah, and that's really frowned on, right? To have any kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we've done full safety plans for every single one of our programs, and absolutely no contact at all with clients.
Okay. And then you ensure that everything is clean before it's dropped off, I guess, and
Yeah, that's all done through the Activets. Yeah.
okay.
And then
Sorry.
there is ownership on families as well, because there's boxes and right, like there's got to
Yeah.
be ownership on all aspects. But no, we absolutely do our due diligence and
Yeah.
every
Kim,
yeah.
are you surprised that there isn't a bigger increase right now? Were you guys anticipating that, we're going to be hit really hard? Or, do you kind of, I mean, I know you said you kind of understand where people are at now, but are you guys a little bit surprised that it hasn't been greater than what it is?
I think initially we were quite worried initially because our call volume was a little bit, well, it was lower than normal. Food hamper programs were lower than normal. We've done some mass promotion. We are starting to see, I think this week, we can say that our calls are starting to pick up again. But no, I don't anticipate, I think things will increase dramatically, and I think we'll start to see it potentially this month. And as we get deeper and deeper in, we're going to see more and more. Right now, there are a lot of programs that are allowing you to defer bills and delay payments and different things. So those are all in existence right now. And
Yeah, but even though you defer a payment, eventually you have to make that payment. So
yeah, and I think that's when it's going to catch up, because
I would.
yeah, a lot of people, banks are being great. You can defer a mortgage payment, you can do things, but eventually that's gonna catch up. And I think that's where our services are going to become more necessary than they've ever been.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, of course.
So a couple of thoughts. One is that I am glad to hear you say that the number of calls hasn't increased, but I do believe that the nature of what we're dealing with right now, we haven't even begun the economic recovery. That process may drag out for a couple of years in my prediction, and so you may see an increase yet to come. So I just offer that not as a warning, but as to stay on your toes. The second thing is, I'm wondering, I'm kind of pleased, I'm seeing a whole lot of activity at a local level, local being, and I'll just use my community, my neighborhood as an example, where we've got people actually feeding other people.
Yeah.
And that got started on Facebook. So hopefully they're picking up some of the slack on that. The third thing I'm thinking about is that I don't know how to share this without sounding like I'm angry about it, but I'm angry about it. So as we're talking to people and we're trying to work through helping folks understand, one of the things that makes me quite angry is when I hear, and I'll use, for lack of a better example, car dealerships that are selling cars, because the advertisements talk with a very soft female voice, usually with nice music playing in the background, like you'd expect some cowboy sitting around a campfire out on the prairie with his horse tethered beside him. And it talks about we're here to help, and these are difficult times, and we've got some huge incentives, and now might be the time to get into a vehicle, and we can help you out. And oh, by the way, they're offering, up to, I've heard as much as $10,000 cash back. And I find it almost immoral that we've got businesses. Let me get away from the focusing on the business and focus on the behavior of the people. I try to encourage as many people as possible, unless you really need that $10,000 cash back or that $8,000, whatever they're offering. It's really good not to take it. All that is just a loan. And well, by the way, that loan comes at 14 or 15% interest rate that you don't have to make payments on for 90 days, but that interest is adding up, right? Yeah. Nothing is free. And I'm I'm taking a stand on businesses that are offering cash back or deferring payments, and even the banks are guilty of part of this, because I've said it 100 times before, two things keep people in poverty: fashion and servicing debt. And servicing debt can really hurt in the long term. I think I heard Marg say that as well, is that we're not out of the woods in this one. So the reason why I went on this little speech here is because I'm encouraging everybody to, if you hear of folks who are considering taking cash back when they're buying cars, it's not free. It's not cash back. It's a loan. Unless they need it, they should go to the bank because it's much less than 14 or 15%. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening to me.
Good point.
I absolutely agree with everything you said, Len. Actually, the words I've used with our team is we're kind of on a holiday right now. Like the calls are a little bit lower. This is our time to repair, get ready, because when it happens, we're gonna see a huge increase, and the demand is going.
And the increase, Kim, is going to, if recovery started tomorrow, and it won't, it'll start in months, 3 to 6, we'll say. We've got 2 full years of more activity for your group than I think we've seen before because of the economic concerns.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Lyle's got a point. I mean, things are changing and we don't know exactly how we're going to come out of this and what it's going to look like. So you guys are going to be, I think, key to everyone surviving this.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we kind of see this as the calm before the storm. And we're looking at, which I think is where this social recovery task force will be really great. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that more kind of at the end, but just getting a handle on the needs, looking at those grant applications, determining what does our community need, looking out into the future and making sure that we have those necessary resources to hopefully meet the needs that we're faced with. So yeah, completely on our radar.
Is there anything as a board that we can help with there, or?
I can keep you posted. I might have more info. I will for sure have more information next meeting. We haven't even had our initial social task force meeting yet. So as we learn more, I can definitely bring you into the loop. If you're seeing things or noticing trends, for sure, please share those. And maybe next time we can block some time on the agenda to talk about like what you guys are seeing and what the themes are and help us try to shape some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Kim,
Yeah.
will you guys be looking at events and event kind of groups and what this means to them? I mean, I know that I talked to, say, Steph from Cochrane Light Up, and, we've chatted back and forth because a lot of our big events, I mean, obviously they look for sponsorship dollars. Sponsorship dollars are going to be almost, I can guarantee, probably non-existent, period, right? As well as how many people are going to want to gather or feel comfortable gathering, on Main Street, say, where there's 15,000 people, right? So then comes the question, do you cancel? Do you hold off? I'd be curious if you guys have a discussion about what this could mean for event groups, or if there's some different collaboration that can maybe happen between the events. Because obviously this isn't going to, it's not like just because, we've canceled events up until July 2nd, I believe. Calgary's gone even further. We haven't gone to that extent yet, though it's still on the table. Most people are just canceling their events anyways to fall in line with provincial stuff, depending on who's backing them. But I'd be curious to find out, if you guys do include that kind of portion in your discussion as well.
Yeah, and potentially that right now we're just looking at that cancellation piece on our end as well. And right now we're kind of following the ECC guidelines, and what I'm sharing with my team is it either has to fit into our ESS response into one of these little boxes, or it needs to fit within our business continuity plan. And if it doesn't, we need to push pause because we don't have capacity if it's not directly linked to providing those essential services.
Okay.
But yeah, we can keep that on our radar for sure, Marnie.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, I'd be curious because I know that there's a lot of people probably wondering, right? And I mean, nobody wants to start planning something and then end up realizing that, oh God, you can't do it to the same extent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think COVID's going to change a whole lot of things and how we do things. And then our family support services pillar provides a whole range of support for families 0 to 18. We're doing individual parenting support, so families can call in and they'll reach one of our team members, and we'll work over the phone with them to talk about anxiety and stress and parenting issues, because right now there's a whole heck of a lot of that happening with parents being home, trying to work, trying to homeschool. Financial stresses are added on top of that, which when parents are stressed, we know children's behavior exasperates. There's this weird correlation between parental stress and child's behavior. So
Dog.
yeah, right?
Well, I go into
on that.
I would just start a conference call or a video conference thing at work, and the dogs will come yapping through. It just drives me insane.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. And I even look at our team and some of the challenges that like our team is going through trying to work. And when you have a working parent in your house, when your kids are used to you leaving and going and doing your job, and then you come home and you're there and you're on and you feed them when they're hungry and you comfort them when you right, but they don't understand like being home and working and what does that look like. And so
Well, and
huge.
I know for us, we have to report on whether people are working at the office, whether they're working from home. If they're working from home, but they have childcare concerns, because that's a big one. And if the childcare is now, they're starting to open them up. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works.
Yeah. Yeah. And who's going to actually put their child in the childcare center with this, right?
Well, we have categories for every contingency that people are away right now, and I have to report that every morning.
Wow. Yeah. We haven't gone to that extent. I'm working the best that I can with our team to make sure they have that support that they need. People are flexing their time and are working like evenings if they're struggling working in their days, and they're doing weekends. And so we're just trying to be as flexible we can to make sure our team has the support that they need to do that home piece, because we're advocates for that home piece and we know the importance of that. And they're balancing and doing an amazing, like I can't speak highly enough. They're doing like a truly phenomenal job of that balance piece. And like you, Marg, I have a dog that bugs me. And then the rest of them are all grown. So.
My daughter works from home and the kids keep interrupting. Her and her husband both work at home. And the kids keep interrupting them to ask questions like, Mom, Dad, Dad. So they try to put them off or try to organize a different way of doing it, but it's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, in the big piece right now is I just saw, the education minister coming out and saying, okay, so schools officially been canceled, which we knew as parents, right?
Yeah.
But, they didn't even know what this is going to look like going back in fall. And I got to tell you, like, if this goes into fall and you end up having, parents still in this case trying to homeschool, it's going to be a huge, it's going to open, I don't even know how much anxiety it's going to cause, right? Because I don't know. I don't know how you get past that. I mean, and then it's like, all the extracurricular stuff canceled for kids. You have parents saying they won't send their kids back. It's a mess. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it's tough times right now. And like even for like we talk about little kids and how difficult it is with that, but our teens and the isolation that they're experiencing and just not having that connection piece, it's tough. So I'm sorry, I'm conscious of time, but I'll just keep plowing away here. Our family support team has been pretty phenomenal. They've got parenting classes up and running online. They're doing some of the most creative and innovative things to keep people connected and mentally well and make sure that people aren't feeling alone and isolated. They've moved child development programs online. So they're doing online play groups and story times and crafts. And they're actually delivering crafts to people's homes to make sure they have the supplies and resources that they need to be able to participate. Nicole, you can correct me again, but I believe one of our programs had almost 65 people virtually participating in it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the preschool groups did. Yeah.
Yeah, super incredible. And yeah, they're
This
just
is included.
oh yeah, they have that's their calendar. So they're doing virtual programs 3 to 4 times a week for families with young children. Hillary is doing a phenomenal job at getting things together for seniors. We're doing online physical activity, so yoga for seniors and different things. Hillary's put together a video for our seniors to actually know how to use Zoom. And what does that look like? And how do you turn on your camera? And how do you mute? And she's doing it herself because she's a safe, familiar person that they're going to know and listen to. And so she's going to be a movie star eventually. This is going to go far and wide. Doing our best to try to connect to all those different age groups, and they're doing amazing, absolutely amazing. We did volunteer week online, and people were nominating volunteers. Renita was dropping off gifts and prizes at people's homes and doing social distance. Kudos, good job. Youth Week is happening online right now, Mental Health Awareness Week. So lots of really cool things, and our team is just plowing through and thinking of new ways to do it. So literally have the best team in the world. Nicole, are you?
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I'll send out the link to the online activity guide that we put out so that everybody can see that as well. I'll send that out to everybody so they can see all the activities. It's in the Cochrane Times this week, I believe, as well.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
And Nicole, how are you doing?
We could save that. All in time.
Okay.
For when we turn the recording off, Marg, Nicole and I can get real with you. And then, yeah, just a few more updates. The housing, we've applied for a grant through the Alberta Rural Development Network, ARDN, to support. It's a smaller grant. I believe we only applied for like around $21,000, but support housing, so rent supplements, because we're assuming that housing is going to become an issue in the near future. Supporting utility costs, and also we need to be thinking about isolation, and if somebody contracts COVID and they can't actually isolate at home because they're either living with somebody with a compromised immune system, or what does that look like? We do have some dollars in case we need to put somebody up in a hotel to isolate for that time period for safety reasons. So
Oh, that would be extremely traumatic. Oh my goodness.
yeah, but it's all things that we got to think about. We literally have these what ifs, what if. Also, on a completely different note, we're ESS, so we respond to emergencies. If there's a fire, we need to be thinking, how do we handle a dual emergency? What does it look like if a fire happens by Bow Ridge and we need to evacuate that community? Where do they go? What do we do? How do we keep people safe? How do we keep people distant? There's a whole bunch of things. And we're actually, I'm meeting with Stony Nakota as well tomorrow to talk about how do we support Stony's response if they have to evacuate. So,
Kim,
yeah.
are there any lessons to be learned from Fort Mac just had the flood, and one of the issues that they had to deal with was, of course, where do you put the flood victims, right? Because they evacuated some entire neighborhoods, and suddenly they can't put them up in the school gymnasium anymore. So has anybody reached out to see what it is they did?
Not at this point yet. We're meeting, I'm part of the South Central Emergency Social Services team as well. And we have a meeting on Monday, May the 11th, where we'll be talking about that. And they reach out to all the different communities and find out strategies, and then they bring it back to us as a team so we can debrief and take a look at that.
Great.
There's lots. Like we're literally thinking so far ahead about everything. And then just a few more kind of quick updates around what we're doing. We've been working with Victim Services to develop a mail out card. I'm going to quit sharing my screen. How do I do that, Nicole? Huh.
At the top, it should say quit viewing.
Oh, stop share.
Here, I was like, I can do it for you if you want.
So I'm used to, we use Teams, Microsoft Teams mostly. So Zoom. Oh yeah, we created.
It's in their in your package too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So we've been working with Victim Services to create a card that we're going to mail out to every single home. So everybody will receive this in their mail. For Cochrane, Western Rocky View County, we did Morley, Exshaw. We've sent this far and wide. One of our worries is for people that don't necessarily have access to a computer. How are they getting their information? How are they accessing support? So this talks about that, and on the back has a whole list of important phone numbers that range right from 24-hour crisis support to food to financial support. So we tried to cover the whole gamut. This should be hitting the mail, I'm hoping next week. We're getting 17,500 cards printed. And those
So
will
how
be
far of a rural, reach will that be? Like you said, Stony, but like, is it going to go up as far as all of Rocky View?
Yep.
Okay.
We're hitting everywhere that we absolutely can. We've been working with Victim Services as well. So on the front, it lists FCSS as the point person to call during the day. And then Victim Services has created after hours kind of emergency number for evenings and weekends that their volunteers will man to make sure that our residents have support in Cochrane with local resources 24/7 during this. So we're super excited about that. That's been a whole lot of work to get up and running. Victim Services also created an app called CARES that has a listing of all the local resources, all the provincial, federal resources that people can access right on their phone or on their computer as well. So Victim Service has been amazing and doing tons of work. We just launched this week. We have phones that actually work. So since, yay, Nicole. Since we vacated our offices in March, we haven't been able to pick up a live phone call. People call the main FCSS number. They've had to leave a voicemail, which goes into a mailbox, which our admin team listens to the voicemail. They then forward it to the appropriate person. Then that person calls that person back. We were having struggles because we were using our personal cell phones and we didn't want our numbers going out to the community. So we'd block our number. Nobody wants to answer a block number. They think we're, I don't know, solicitors, right? So we've been working with our IT department for probably close to 3 to 4 weeks now. And we actually have a live phone tree where people call the main number. They can push 1 for food. They can push 2 to talk to a resource worker, 3 to talk to parenting support. And they actually they push the number, they go right to our person, and their computer acts as a phone that they can actually talk through right then and there, live transfer. Super cool. Nicole did all the hard work. And I'm like ever in her debt. So that was huge for us. We also have recognized that people that don't have a phone don't have a way to reach out for support. So just this week, we got an intercom installed outside of FCSS, our door. And so if people don't have access to a telephone, they'll be able to walk up to the FCSS door. I believe it'll be Thursdays. And we'll have a resource worker on site that can talk to them and provide support. While the person is outside, our person will be inside. No contact. There's a wall and everything in between but we'll be able to provide them information, resources, and
Yeah.
what else? Yes.
What would that look like, somebody without a phone? Who would not have a phone?
We have a few people that don't have landlines, don't have cell phones, and if
Really?
they do, pay as you go. So they
Oh,
often
right.
run out of minutes, run
Sure.
out of time.
Hadn't thought of that. Yeah, right. Thanks.
Yeah. So it's not as common, but we just want to make sure that we're not, we want to be able to provide support for everybody. So it's our way of making sure that we're available. I don't believe we're going to be advertising this far and wide, because I anticipate to have a lineup, because people don't want to talk to our resource workers on the phone. They want to see them in person. And if we said we have a resource worker at the office on this day, all the people that love our resource workers are going to get in line and they're going to want to talk to them until they realize that it's through a microphone, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be launching next week. And we've been holding lots of community meetings. So we've been meeting with youth serving organizations, senior serving organizations, our different partners, to take a look at what are those needs, what's happening, what are the gaps, so we can do our best to fill them. And we're going to try hosting our first virtual interagency meeting on May 27th. So we typically have about 40 to 50 professionals that come together every 2 months to talk and chat. So we're going to give it a shot and see how that goes. That's my ESS update. And I know I'm running really short on time. I don't know where we're at.
Short on battery.
I'm just going to try to find my agenda again, you guys. Marg, you might have to keep me in line.
I don't know if I can do that. I'm trying to find a plug that will work here.
I know. It's easier said than done, Mark, honestly.
I can pull it up. I've got it.
Oh, I found it too, Nicole. Oh, you beat me.
We're on board highlights. There we go.
Oh my gosh. I can't even begin to read that. Oh, there we go.
Oh, and you wanted me to weave my random stuff into my COVID update, Mark. So that's what I will do really quickly. So I wanted to pose a question to the board and get your feedback on this. You probably saw the letter that was attached as correspondence to the agenda from the minister, saying that they've allowed some flexibility to FCSS funding, and we can look at supporting food initiatives and different things that typically wouldn't fit in within our mandate. That letter got me thinking whether we should actually reach out. Oh, sorry. I was like, what's happening there? I couldn't figure it out.
Confused me for a minute too.
Thanks, Nicole. But it made me question whether, as a board, you guys wanted to decide to have us reach out to the organizations that receive funding for 2020, the FCSS and United Way grants, and have a conversation with them to see, have your priorities shifted? Is there a COVID response that you could be supporting? Could these grant dollars be better used in a different place than what you told us they were going to be used for last year?
I think that's a great idea, because it is going to be a huge factor for these organizations.
Yeah. I didn't want to do anything without your guys' permission, because you're like the bosses of the grants.
I don't know about that.
Kim, I think that's a great idea. So if I understood what you said, you're thinking about releasing the restrictions that we place on those dollars so that they can be more flexible, more helpful.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, we'd call and have a conversation with them and just see, like, is there a way you could be responding to COVID that you
Right.
might be able to, and could these grant dollars help support that piece?
That's a great idea. Whose idea is that? Good girl. That's a good idea. Get my vote.
Okay.
I think that's a really good idea because some of the money might not being used right now, where COVID is the #1 concern. So I think that would be a super idea.
Well, and also, like you guys are all saying, it just makes sense that they have to shift the way they're operating
Yeah.
in order to cover off their community, or however you want to put that. And that would give them the relief to know that we're not going to hold them to something that they can't do.
Yeah, I think a lot of the groups could use some money. They could transform what they're doing. It would allow a little bit more creativity and flexibility. And I think we'd see some really neat initiatives potentially come out of it. So,
Well, and that's something we'll have to look at too, especially as we go forward, is fundraising is going to be a challenge this year. So what kind of strategies do we want to put in place for some of what we had hoped to do or we're planning to do, and how are we going to try to cover off that or whatever, but
Yeah.
let's do that at a future meeting.
yeah, absolutely. Do we need a motion, Nicole? And then what would be the expectations? Do we just allow that freedom and flexibility? Do we need something in writing about them
Make a
shifting?
suggestion.
Pardon me?
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the idea is a great idea, but I would ask at a minimum that if they alter the dollars or the flow of the monies that we have already agreed to, that we need some kind of a reporting structure after the fact, not a measuring stick.
Just to be accountable.
Yeah, I didn't want to use the word accountable, but that's a good word. Yeah, just so that
think they have
we know, so we could answer if somebody was to say, hey, I thought that this group was supposed to do this with the funds. We don't get caught by surprise. So they certainly should have, I think it's a great idea to give them some flexibility on being adaptable, just like you guys at FCSS office are. But somehow they need to keep us as a board in the loop so that we can answer questions as well.
So if Nicole and I came up with some sort of form, just with like a brief explanation of how you're planning on shifting the money, what would that look like? We could just put something really simplistic together. You'd be okay?
I think it's a good start. We may find we have to evolve it and modify it as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. But then that'll be something that we have to fall back on for the reporting piece too. So sorry, Nicole, I'm creating more work.
Have you heard anything at all from the United Way through all of this?
Yeah, we get weekly updates from the United Way just through email and whatnot. And we are hoping to apply potentially for some dollars to support a longer term recovery plan through them.
Oh, okay.
But not in terms of our grant dollars. We haven't heard anything specific.
Okay.
And then I have one more granting hard question for you guys too. So I don't know if, Nicole, we need a motion before we move on.
I don't even have to talk.
Lyle first did, and I think Rick seconded. Okay.
Okay. We're all happy.
So one other grant question for you. We held over some grants. We didn't pay out grants for the Parent Link Center or the Resource Center. We made that decision to put them on pause until the new Family Resource Network was coming in. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my question to you is, if the Family Resource Network wanted to continue to apply for the counseling dollars, are going to be critical because we didn't receive funding for intensive youth support and that piece. What would that look like? Do you need a whole separate application to come before the board from the Family Resource Network?
I would think so.
Okay. And then if So what I can tell you right now that we'll put together an application on behalf of the FRN for the counseling dollars. Roots of Empathy, I can't see that operating over the next year for sure. And we'll have to see who has the capacity to pick it up, because with the decrease in funding that we received, the FRN won't be able to manage it. We lost a significant amount of money, $275,000 actually, from the province, which resulted in the loss of staff, because that's the biggest, most expensive area. So Roots of Empathy will not be something that's happening. Would the board entertain an application that got submitted to support a COVID response with that $4,500 that would have gone to Roots of Empathy? What
We
I'm
know what that is, like what would it be? Like,
It would be submitted. I do an actual grant application for it, so it's all legit and on the up and up. But I'm thinking some type of needs assessment survey to help us gain an understanding on the pulse of what's happening, help us understand of what that future could look like.
oh, I
Ask
see.
some of those questions. Are you a renter? Are you an owner? Do you worry about housing? Are you worried about like some of these, so we can kind of get a bit of an idea of what that looks like for our community.
Oh,
Is in my head, but open to suggestions as well.
well, not having had, to really think about it right now, but maybe if we do come up with some ideas, we can send them into Nicole.
Yeah, for sure. If you have anything else, I was going to take this to the task force, the social recovery task force, because I think that's one of the initial steps of the task force, is to understand the needs. Because
Okay.
for us looking at the future, it's really hard to figure out what we do if we don't actually understand what the needs are and what those could potentially be. So I think some of those preliminary questions may be really important. But so how would I go about that? Would it be a grant application that I could bring potentially next meeting? Or what would that, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess depending on what it is they come up with, maybe just if you can bring that to the next meeting. I don't,
Okay.
If it's something that you need to react on sooner, could it not be an email that goes out to all of us?
Yeah, how about we do that? I'll email, and if it can wait, we'll do next
Okay.
meeting.
Sure.
Sounds good.
That's all. I've talked for like a whole hour, you guys. That comes to the end of the Kim show. I don't know if anyone has anything to add. I'm sorry for monopolizing the whole meeting.
Well, no, this is different times, so it's good. Like, it's good to hear what you guys are working on and what's happening. Keeping it, just to be in the loop is nice.
Yeah, it's big. We've got a lot happening in our area.
So is this the official end to our meeting, and we can stop recording and see how everybody's doing, or?
Just one more thing, the ongoing business. I see Nicole circling with her
Oh.
trying to get my attention back. Just discussing what we want to do with group presentations. So typically for grants, we've had groups come in and do presentations. We would have started in April, but we're not, and we didn't do a presentation this month, and we won't be doing it probably next month.
I think we have to put it on hold for now till we know how things. Sure, these groups are all swamped right now themselves, trying to figure out what they're going to be doing. So if everyone is okay with that, we'll just temporarily put it on hold.
Okay, absolutely. And that's the end of the meeting. Right, Nicole? Are we over? The formal? Okay.
That's just great.